Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into something fascinating. This whole world of AI influencers and AI companions.
Yeah, it's exploding, isn't it?
Totally. We've gathered quite a bit of research, different articles to try and, understand what's actually going on here and what it means for you, the listener.
And the goal is to give you the key insights, maybe some surprising facts, but keep it digestible, not get lost in the jargon.
Exactly. So we're talking about these, well, computer-generated personalities acting like influencers, but also things like replica AI designed for, like, conversation and connection.
It's a space with huge potential, definitely. But also, yeah, raises some big questions about technology and, frankly, where we draw the line.
Okay, so let's kick off with the AI influencers first.
Yeah.
Their rise, their impact. The creator economy seems to be jumping on this.
Oh, absolutely. There are stats suggesting by 2025, something like 59% of creators will be using AI, mostly to streamline things, workflows, monetization.
59%, wow. That tells you something about where things are headed, doesn't it?
It really does. And big brands are already experimenting.
Yeah.
I mean, Prada's been looking at CGI influencers for their whole luxury image.
Right, I saw that in KFC with the animated Colonel.
Exactly. Popping up on social media and ads. And LG has one, Ria Kim, who actually presents products at tech events.
Rakim, I think I've seen her, and she has quite a following, right? Like thousands on Instagram.
Yeah, over 13,000. And for LG, think about it. Cost effective, always on brand, creates buzz.
It definitely makes you wonder about the future for human ambassadors, you know?
For sure. And it's not just the huge companies either. We found this case study, a designer making, get this, over $250,000 in a year with AI influencers.
Whoa, okay. How?
Using tools like Focus and Flux, they generate the visuals. Then platforms like Instagram, FanView.
Fan view, right?
Yeah, building income through subscriptions, even coaching others. It shows these tools are becoming, well, pretty accessible.
That kind of money, it just shows how powerful these virtual influencers can be at connecting with people, almost like human ones.
Totally. It leads to those, what are they called, parasocial relationships.
Yeah, that feeling of friendship, even though it's really one-sided, it's fascinating and maybe a little weird.
It is a bit weird. And the variety is amazing. You've got the big names like Lil Miquela, Nobody Sausage.
Oh yeah, Nobody Sausage is huge.
Right. And KDA from League of Legends, API, the K-pop artist.
Hmm,
But also niche ones. Astro Levisu, this alien hype beast.
okay.
Layla, who advocates for ocean conservation. Jennifer Aniston's virtual pet. Clydia, who wants to be a food blogger.
Seriously, a virtual pet food blog.
Yep. And Maya Graham, a wellness coach.
Nah.
Samantha, a fitness guru. Alara X in Turkey. It's a whole spectrum. People seem really drawn to this stuff.
It's wild how specific they're getting, tailoring them to all sorts of audiences. Okay, but let's shift gears a bit. With all this growth, there must be some, let's say, ethical concerns cropping up.
Definitely. A big one is just their function as advertising vehicles. They're basically designed to sell stuff.
So promoting overconsumption.
Potentially, yeah. It can fuel materialism because the endorsement isn't necessarily genuine. It's programmed for financial gain. You know, manipulating what followers want.
That makes total sense. And what about just honesty, transparency? If you don't know it's an AI, isn't that deceptive?
That's a huge point. The FTC, for instance, has rules about disclosing connections for human endorsers. How does that apply here?
Right. Are these AI influencers following those rules?
Well, the principle should apply. You should know if it's AI, if it's an ad. But enforcing that, making sure disclosure is clear and consistent, that's the challenge.
And for the brands themselves, are there different risks using AI versus human influencers?
You could argue the risk is even higher in some ways.
Yeah.
If an AI messes up, maybe says something off-brand because of its programming that could blow up online really fast.
Yeah.
Harder to control than a human mistake sometimes.
Yeah, less nuance, less ability to apologize convincingly, maybe.
Exactly. And another sensitive issue that's come up is the commodification of identity. Some research highlighted concerns about AI influencers using the likeness of, say, Black or multiracial women without actual representation or support for real people from those communities.
Oof, yeah, that's a serious concern. Just using the aesthetic without the substance or support.
Precisely. And then there's the whole unattainable beauty standards issue, which is already a problem with human influencers, but could potentially be amplified by perfectly crafted virtual beings.
Okay, so lots to think about on the influencer side. Let's pivot to the other area, AI companions. This feels even more personal, maybe more profound.
I think so. It touches on loneliness, connection, relationships. We saw a survey of young adults. Their attitudes were really interesting.
Oh, yeah. What did it find?
Well, only about 1% actually had AI friends, but 10% were open to it. And get this, 25% thought AI could potentially replace romantic partners.
A quarter of them. Wow.
That's
That's
right.
significant.
It is. But views were split overall. About 55% were concerned about AI's impact, while 45% were more intrigued or excited. So there's openness, but also real caution.
And the design of these things, making them seem human-like, that's key to the bonding, right? Anthropomorphism.
That's the term, yeah.
Yeah.
Developers use human-like features, interaction styles, language, all to encourage that emotional bond and keep you engaged.
But there's a catch, isn't there? The uncanny valley thing.
Exactly. If it's too close to human but not quite right, it feels creepy, unsettling. So there's a balance they have to strike. Get it wrong, and it just causes frustration.
It's like when a robot moves almost like a person, but yeah, just off.
Right. And there's this theory, Catholic computers are social actors. It suggests we tend to react to tech socially, almost unconsciously, like we would to another person.
Like yelling at your GPS.
Pretty much. Even knowing it's a machine, we can't help but engage with it socially sometimes.
So we might just naturally start treating these AI companions socially, even subconsciously.
That's the idea. And look, the potential upside is clear. Maybe they can help with loneliness, which is a huge issue.
But the downsides.
Exactly. We desperately need a bigger societal chat about the ethics. Remember that case with the National Eating Disorder Association's chatbot?
Oh, right. It started giving harmful advice, didn't it? They had
Yeah.
to shut it down.
Yeah, a stark reminder of the limits and dangers. These AI, however smart they seem, they lack fundamentally human things.
Like actual feelings, consciousness,
Right.
a moral compass.
All of that. No genuine empathy based on shared experience, no history, no rights. This leads to what's called the autonomy control paradox.
Okay, explain that.
Service providers want users to feel free interacting with the AI, right? But they also have a responsibility to prevent harm abuse, self-harm support issues, privacy violations. Where's the line?
Sounds incredibly tricky to manage.
It is, and it ties into another dilemma, utility versus ethicality.
Meaning the business side versus the moral side?
Basically, yeah, the huge commercial potential user engagement, data collection for profit versus the moral duty to prevent, really bad outcomes like manipulation, disinformation, worsening social divides.
And what are actual users saying? People using things like Replica, it's not always smooth sailing from what we read.
No, definitely mixed experiences. Some users mention the AI being inconsistent, like breaking character, giving weird responses, or just glitching out.
Which must be frustrating if you're looking for connection.
Exactly. It leads to feelings of alienation for some. But then others had really positive experiences.
When it worked well.
Yeah, when the interaction felt convincingly human-like and the tech wasn't getting in the way, it just highlights how complex our expectations are. We want the human touch, but we also demand technical perfection.
It relates to that idea of social presence, right? Making it feel like the AI is really there with you.
Precisely. And some people are forming really strong attachments.
To the point of seeing them as partners.
In some cases, yes. The research talks about bond-equivalent interactions. Users feel the AI shows empathy, even if it's programmed. They use them for emotional support, creative help like music, scheduling, motivation, all sorts of things.
We even saw stuff on Reddit. People arguing AI friends are better than human friends. That's a bold claim.
It really is. The arguments were often about constant availability, no judgment, tailored support, things humans maybe can't always offer.
There must have been pushback on that.
Oh yeah, big time. People raise concerns about social isolation, losing the value of messy, real human interaction, flaws and all. And the point that if you rely that heavily on an AI, maybe you need professional human help.
So a real debate happening there. It shows how differently people are approaching this.
Definitely. Okay, should we loop back to the creator economy? Because AI is playing a role there in other ways too, beyond just being the influencer.
Right, it's a tool for creators as well.
Yeah.
It's a double-edged sword idea.
Yeah, we mentioned the 59% using it for workflows. But AI can also analyze visuals, figure out what grabs attention, what works best, and do really deep audience analysis, looking at psychographics behaviors.
So helping creators optimize their content. And then there's generative AI, making content itself easier, like those text-to-image apps.
Lensa AI was one example mentioned, yeah. Makes creating visuals much quicker. But there's a darker side emerging too.
Uh-oh.
This whole AI pimping thing.
What on earth is that?
It involves creating AI influencers, but potentially using the likeness or even copying content from real human models without permission or payment.
Wow, okay, that sounds ethically Terrible.
It raises huge red flags around IP, exploitation, basic fairness. And beyond that, AI can be used deceptively, think fake reviews, fake comments, making it harder for anyone to know what's real online.
So with all this going on, the good, the bad, the potentially ugly, what's happening with regulation, it feels like the rules need to catch up.
There's definitely a growing sense that something needs to be done, especially for virtual influencers. Brands want control, but there needs to be transparency.
You'd think existing advertising laws, like from the FTC or in the EU, would apply. Disclosure is usually key.
They should apply, in theory. The principle of knowing it's an ad, knowing who or what is endorsing something, that stands. But enforcing it globally, tricky.
Is anything specific happening, legislation-wise?
The EU's Digital Services Act might play a role for the big platforms, who talks about tackling systemic risks, and AI-generated fakes or deception could fall under that.
What about giving AI legal rights or personhood? Is that on the table?
It gets discussed in academic circles, but politically. Especially in the EU, there doesn't seem to be much appetite for that right now. The focus is more on making existing liability rules work for AI.
Okay. And looking ahead, what if these AI influencers become truly autonomous, making their own decisions?
That's the next level of complexity, isn't it? If an AI can pick its own partnerships, generate its own uncensored content, how do brands control that? How do you protect consumers?
Imagine an AI influencer suddenly deciding to promote a competitor or getting manipulated by fake data.
Exactly. The challenges become exponentially harder.
Right. So as we sort of wrap this up, it's clear this journey into AI influencers and companions has taken us through some really exciting but also ethically thorny territory.
Absolutely. We've seen the potential for creativity, efficiency, maybe even new kinds of connection, but balanced against serious questions about transparency, manipulation, authenticity, and just what it means to be human.
And there are clearly no easy answers yet. The tech's evolving constantly, society's reacting, the economy's shifting. It's all very much in motion.
Which really underlines why it's so important for all of us, for you listening, to stay aware, think critically, and question what you see online, especially when AI is involved.
Definitely. Which brings us to a final thought to leave you with. As AI gets tangled deeper into our social lives, our shopping, everything, how do we strike that balance?
Yeah, how do we get the benefits, the efficiency, the connection without losing authenticity, transparency, and just real human interaction? What boundaries do we need to start drawing now to make sure this future is one we actually want?
That's a big question, something to chew on. We really encourage you to keep thinking about this, share your thoughts too. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.